Welcome back to the class once again. So today we are going to continue with the same chapter. So the next cause we are going to discuss about is economic causes. Economic causes. Number one, economic exploitation. Number two, destruction of Indian industries and handicrafts. Impoverishment of the peasants. So these are the topics which comes under economic causes. Now let me tell you, the Britishers, or let us say the East India Company, their main motive to come to India was to trade and maximize their profit. So initially when they came, they set up their factories and they brought purchased goods from India, like the textiles was very popular in the world market. India is famous for textile even today. Textiles, spices were grown maximum in our country. Even we call India the spice country. So they bought from India, they took it to abroad and sold it over there, and they earned high profit. They purchased at a low price and they sold it at a very high price. So that was the system. Now when they came as a trader, slowly and gradually they started to exploit our country through different means. So large scale economic exploitation started in our country. Okay, they bought Indian textiles. Number one, they bought indigo. Indigo is a dyeing agent, blue in color, okay, which helps in the industries to color the cotton, white cottons. Spice and food grains, they bought it from India and they sold all those in abroad at very high prices. Since India was very popular for textiles, the company prohibited. Now you can see the East India Company prohibited the sale of Indian textiles like silk and muslin and calico in England. All these were banned. That means all the restrictions are imposed over the selling of textiles, silk and calico in England. Okay, they imposed heavy taxes. Heavy taxes on the Indian textiles. Indian textiles, when they were taken to abroad or foreign countries, taxes were imposed very high, so automatically the prices of those textiles will go high, and that will that hampered the business of the Indian communities. So they suffered a lot, the heavy taxes. Whereas with the start of industrial revolution in England, English industries needed raw materials, and they got all those raw materials from India. Before they used to buy textiles and sell it over there, but after the industrial revolution, what they did was that they started taking raw materials from India. They took raw materials to England, converted into a finished good in the factories, brought the same thing and sold in the Indian market. So India served two purposes for the Britishers. What were the two purposes? India provided raw materials, and India became the market for the finished goods which were brought by the Britishers in our country. So they used to take raw materials from our country at a cheaper rate, and that due to that the Indian textiles, they lost their business. We can say the people lost their business, they became unemployed, and the same cotton was purchased and taken to England, fed Indian industries. It was made into a finished good. Again, the same thing was brought into the Indian market and they sold it. So India served as a market for the British goods. So this way, what happened? Our Indians, those who were in the business of textiles, they lost their job. Okay, the traders, the merchants, they lost their jobs. Okay, now apart from that, destruction of Indian industries. As I told you, with the coming of Britishers, slowly and gradually they lost. That means the Indian industries, they started to get destroyed because they could not face the competition with the machine-made goods. they could not face the competition with the machine-made goods, which were very of a good quality and were cheaper in price. Whereas Indian industries goods made with hand and all, okay, it was very costly. That is why they could not face the tough competition given by the English-made goods in our country. So, on the other hand, the taxes which were imposed on the duties of Indian textiles, okay, made the textile industries weak. The textile industry in India started becoming weak. Automatically, when the taxes are imposed, the prices of goods will go high. So, when the goods go high, let me explain you. Indian textile was very popular. When it was taken to foreign markets, England, the taxes were imposed over it. The prices automatically went high. Okay, whereas the British-made goods which they came in our market was without taxes. So definitely the prices will be low. So they could not face the competition provided by the Britishers in our country. They could not compete in the foreign market. Okay, and not only that, as I told you earlier, with the start of Industrial Revolution, companies began to purchase raw materials, raw cotton from our country at a very cheap price. Even jute was purchased at a very cheap price and were taken to Britain. And these raw materials, what was done? These raw materials were manufactured into a finished goods and sold in India at a very high price. Sold in India again at a very high price. They purchased raw materials at a very low price. They took it to England, made into a finished goods, brought it to India, sold it at a very high price. So this way what happened? This way our traders lost their job. The merchants, they lost their job. So the Indian industries started to decline. We can say that the Indian industries were completely destroyed by the policy followed by the British government to promote their sale in our country. Now, with that, India became the producer of raw material only for the Britishers. India now became a producer of raw materials, okay, which discouraged the handicrafts of our country. Handicrafts of our country also was completely destroyed. Okay, now their goods were not demanded because their goods were of very high price, whereas the goods brought from England, they sold it at a very reasonable price. Though it was very high, but still that as compared to the Indian goods, they got the market. Okay, now we can say that due to all this, the Indian industrialists as well as the handicrafts, they all were completely destroyed, and the people who were involved in this, they became unemployed. The people who were involved in this, they were completely unemployed. Okay, they lost their job. So the loss of job created, now coming to the point, the loss of job created frustrations and discontent among the people. They were frustrated. Who was responsible for the suffering? Who brought suffering in their life? The British government. So, what to do now? They were frustrated, they lost their job, they became unemployed. So, definitely this also became one of the cause for the revolt in 1857. Now, impoverishment of the peasants. Who all are the peasants? There is a difference between a farmer and a peasant. Mostly the students are confused. The peasants, they take it as a farmer, farmer as a peasant. No. Farmers are the one who have their own land. And they work on it, or they ask some other laborers to work on it or cultivate it in their farms. Whereas peasants, they don't have a land of their own, they work on somebody else's land. They grow crops, they cultivate, and they get their share or they get their wages. So the peasants mostly in our country from the very beginning, even today, they are the sufferers, they are the worst sufferers. So what happened, you can see here, impoverishment of the peasants due to the money lenders. Let me tell you, the impoverishment of peasants was very much inevitable due to the acts of the money lenders. So mostly we can say that they borrowed money from the money lenders. They could not pay the money back on time. So result was that it went on increasing. The burden of loan went on increasing over them. Okay, and due to that, the condition of the peasants became worse and worse. They became poor and poor, poor and poor. Okay, so this way, impoverishment of the peasants was also one of the most important factor for the revolt of 1857. The next one is military causes. So this is one of the most important cause we can take it that was responsible for the revolt of 1857. Now let us try to understand these military causes one by one. Now you know that the British army was composed of Indian soldiers also. Indian sepoys were also there. Now these Indian sepoys were paid very low salaries. They were capable and able like European soldiers, though they were paid very low salaries. They were paid very, very low salaries. So definitely this will also bring frustration in the life of the soldiers. They are working day and night to suppress the revolt. Wherever revolts broke out, the Indian sepoys were sent to suppress them. And these Indians, showing their loyalty to the Britishers, they followed the orders. They suppressed the revolt in India. Though in spite of giving 100%, they were not paid properly. The salaries were very, very low. They were paid very low salaries. They were paid very, very low salaries. As compared to European counterparts, their salaries were very, very low. Now next one is a very poor prospect of promotion. The Indian soldiers could hardly reach up to the post of Subedar, sepoys, and they could hardly reach up to the post of a Subedar. Okay, and all the high posts were reserved for the Europeans. English generals were there. All the high posts were reserved for the Europeans. Okay, and the Indians hardly could reach up to the post of a Subedar. So there was no proper prospect of promotion. So if you work, if you show your ability, you need to be promoted, but that was not there. So they were poor. That means poor prospect of promotion. Promotion was very, very at a low grade. They could hardly reach up to the post of a Subedar. All the high ranks were reserved for the Europeans. All the high posts were reserved for the British. The third one is religious sentiments. British army consisted of Punjabis, Sikhs were there, and mostly they keep beards and all. So those who kept beards, they were asked to have a clean shave. As for their religion, they were not allowed to cut or trim their beard. Okay, but this way, religious sentiments of the people, of the soldiers were also hurt. They were not allowed to use any sectarian mark like turban and all, or like tika and all. Okay, so all these were not at all allowed. Even there was a popular belief among the soldiers, among the Indians, that they were not allowed to cross river Indus, which was against their religion. But whenever wars were fought outside India, the Indian soldiers had to cross river Indus and go to other part and fight wars for the Britishers, which were completely against their religion. But nothing could be done for that, because they had passed one act which was known as General Service Enlistment Act, which was passed in the year 1856. In the year 1856, General Service Enlistment Act was passed. According to the General Service Enlistment Act, the Indian soldiers could be sent, okay, overseas for military services, and abolished extra allowances for the service overseas. When you are asked to go apart from go far into a different land or far away, they are to be given bhatta. Allowances are to be given to them. That was also denied to them. Okay, so according to the religion, they were not allowed to cross, but as per the new act, they were forced to. That means once you are recruited in the army, you could be sent anywhere. Next one is annexation of Awadh. So let me tell you annexation of Awadh. Why? When we discussed the political causes, there also I mentioned that this can be discussed in the military cause also, because most of the soldiers in the British army, they were from Awadh. It was estimated that 75,000 soldiers, they belonged to Awadh. They were very, very loyal to them. But when Awadh was annexed, so these people were very much hurt. We are working for them, we are loyal to them, but what about our people? What about our family who are now suffering due to their acts? Okay, so this had hurt the sentiments of the people. So mostly, the main occupation of the people of Awadh, okay, there was agriculture, okay, but at least one member from Awadh, they joined the army. What was the most important cause which triggered the revolt of 1857? And that was the introduction of Enfield Rifle. Before the introduction of Enfield Rifle, they used to use brown beach guns. They were made of iron, and it was replaced by Enfield cartridge. Okay, so you might have heard, you were taught in the earlier classes also that the British introduced Enfield Rifle, replacing the brown beach gun, and the cartridge which was to be loaded in the Enfield Rifle was covered with a wrapper, and the wrapper consisted of a fat of a cow and a pig. It was a rumor. It has been everywhere, wherever I went through it, it has been mentioned that it was a rumor that the cartridge cover was made of wrapper was made of a fat of a cow and a pig. So definitely the Hindus, cow is holy for them, so they will definitely not use it. And for Muslims, pig is unclean for them, so definitely they will also not use it. So they decided to refuse it. So Enfield Rifle, when it was introduced in the British Army, the Indian soldiers refused to use it. There was a rumor among them that the cartridge cover was made of a fat of a cow and a pig. So definitely the Hindus will also not use it because cow is holy for them, and the Muslims will not use it because using it is taboo for them. So definitely when they refused, they started a revolt. When they refused to do so, many of the soldiers were imprisoned, and the first person to refuse this was Mangal Pandey. And with that, the revolt started, and in different parts of the country it spread like a wildfire, and the revolt started. And this topic we'll discuss in the next class. And in the next class, we'll discuss about the results of the revolt of 1857 mainly. But before that, I'll also continue with the events in short. What happened, where it happened, who led the revolt in different places. And mostly our main motive would be to discuss the results of the revolt of 1857 and what type of changes it brought after the revolt of 1857. So once again, let me remind you, those who did not watch the previous video, the link is given in the description. You can watch it and continue with today's video. For today, we'll meet again in the next class. So till then, please take care of yourself.